Man, oh man, oh man. Guys, I am excited for this review that I have for you today to show you what this Ontario SP-8 survival machete can do for you. You know, here at the channel, we review a ton of gear, and a lot of gear that's premium, as well as a lot of gear that's, you know, budget, and a lot of gear that you maybe have never heard of. But the SP-8 from Ontario Knife Company, you know, has been around for quite a while. It's a real budget item, USA made though, which is always great. And to be honest, when I purchased this, I really wasn't expecting a lot. I got it on a good deal on Amazon, and you know, I'm like, all right, let's see what this thing can do. But I was blown away by this thing's performance and capabilities to value. The ratio of value to what this thing can do is phenomenal, and one of the best valued items that I've ever purchased ever in my life when it comes to larger blades. So I'm super stoked today, guys, to get out here, show you what this thing can do. I've hard used this thing just to show you all the different capabilities. We're gonna do some urban tasks, you know, prying open some crates and things like that, as well as a lot of outdoor survival tasks with this survival machete. And one of the things that I think is just really important to note here is for those of you who maybe live in a really big urban sprawl, this is great for the outdoors, don't get me wrong, in the woods, you know, and jungle and that type of stuff. But those of you that live in a big urban sprawl, maybe LA, New York, you know, big town like that, Boston, and you want a big, you know, blade, but you're not gonna be doing a lot of woods processing, at least not right away. You need something that's gonna be super tough and almost like a pry bar. This is it right here. This thing is so tough, durable, and with that tip is able to do a lot of stuff. You're gonna see a lot of prying in this video that other knives of similar design would not be able to handle, guys. So I'm just really excited overall to show you. And I'm gonna start out with the value because that's one of the big positives of this SP-8. Guys, the value on this thing is out of the park, 5 out of 5. That's the rating I'm giving for this thing right before we even get started here, because I picked this up for $37 on Amazon on a steal. Usually you can get this for easily under 50 bucks, which is a phenomenal deal for $10.95 USA made 10-inch blade. I mean, that is ridiculous at that price point. So that's the first thing, guys. 5 out of 5, phenomenal value for this SP-8 that we're looking at here today. With that being said, let's get to using this blade. Yeah, let's get started. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. All right, folks, I want to run a couple specs here by you real fast. We'll talk about them, you know, in detail as we go through the video, but just want to kind of give you an overall perspective of this knife. We're looking at 15 inches overall, so this is definitely a massive beast because it also weighs 23 ounces. That's huge, heavy, and it's going to weigh 30 ounces with its sheath. So this is a tank and a monster. So you got to think, is this worth the weight to its performance? That's for you to decide. I think it is on how well it batons and chops, and we're going to talk through that and show that throughout this video. Now, the blade from the guard to the tip is 10 inches, but we're looking at a cutting edge of 7.75 inches, so that's something to note. 1/4 inch thick, full tank construction all the way through that craton handle. You are looking at a very low saber grind, and we'll talk about that in its performance a little bit later, but a low saber grind with, again, that 1095 high carbon steel USA made with that black coating that is wearing off after hard use. So that is something to note as well, and it does have that secondary edge right there with that, again, short saber grind. So guys, those are just a few of the basic specs here on the SP-8. All right, folks, it's time for me to give you the rating here on this sheath and walk you through it. And I'm going to give the rating on this sheath a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. And it really comes down to the materials they used. What they ended up doing was doing half leather, half nylon. This front piece right here is nylon, and then the whole loop over as well as the entire back is leather. Now, if they had made this all leather, this would have been a lot better sheath, but I'm already seeing some quality issues with this nylon. Basically, to cut down on cost is why they did that. I can already see fraying here, and there's just some issues with the quality of the nylon. Now, the design of the sheath is actually pretty good, and I really like it a lot, because what you have is a nice leg lashing tassel down here. You have this loop over with these 3 buttons right here, then this 4th one that goes around the guard, and it's very secure in here. It's quiet, it's secure, it's not going to come out. And then you unsnap that, and then you pull the whole blade out like that. Then when you're done, you put it back in. And it's rather secure in there. I have no real issues with its retention. And again, quiet, so that's good. And then on the back, you got this real nice piece of leather. You got a nice leather loop with these nice studs and good stitching along the back here. And then a good leather loop with this dangle feature. So it's going to give you a lot of mobility. You know, if you're trekking and hiking with this on your hip, you're not really going to feel it, and it's going to give you a lot more mobility than a lot of other sheaths out there. But again, it's just this front nylon piece with the fraying and just not really, I don't know, I just don't like it. So that's why I'm giving it that 3 out of 5, guys. And if this blade is your go-to blade, you are going to want to upgrade to either some form of full leather or Kydex, and there are companies out there that make them for actually a pretty reasonable price for the SP. All right, time to talk quality. It should be pretty quick, easy. It's 1095 USA made steel. Not a lot of issues that you could even think to have, and I've used several SP products from Ontario over the years, and I've seen phenomenal quality, toughness, and durability. It's off the chart, and no exception with this SP-8. I've put this thing through the ringer, and it's come out on top every time. And really, for the price point, it's hard to find anything of equal quality or toughness, guys. So sure, the sheath maybe leaves a little bit to be desired, but again, remember, you paid $50 or less for this product. So when it comes to quality, it's easy for me to give you a 5 out of 5. This SP-8 is a lot sharper than you may think it is with that really short grind. And that's why you wear safety gloves and leather gloves if possible when you're doing outdoor work. Just simple little swing, just nick that ever so slightly. You know, I got a pretty good little cut there. Went right through those leather gloves. If I hadn't been wearing those, it would have taken off a huge chunk of flesh. So wear your safety gloves, guys. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the ergonomics here on this knife. Now, this is a Kraton handle. Ontario does a great job with their Kraton handles. Very tough, durable, and warm to the touch. Fills out my large size hands very well when I'm choked up there at the guard. You can see that I basically have 2 stacks left over. You got a good lanyard hole, and then you got that nice flare hook out the back to really keep it into place so that when you're swinging, it's not wanting to fly out of your hand. That's a big important thing. Just kind of a side note here. If you're buying machetes and bigger chopping, you know, woods blades, you want to make sure that they have a good hook off the back. Some of the best ones are obviously the SP line from Ontario, but also the Becker line from K-Bar. Both of those have really good solid hooks, and it's going to keep your hand in place when you're doing lots of chopping. I've seen lately some of these bigger knives and machetes coming out with straight off the back handles. Doesn't make any sense to me, and I wouldn't like that because you're constantly having to reset your hand. You don't have to do that with this Kraton handle. It just fills out your hand really well, keeps you really locked into place for an extended amount of time, and that Kraton's gonna be really grippy, you know, if you're doing this barehanded and it's sweaty and hot and, you know, maybe you're in a jungle environment, whatever, and you're using this for an extended period of time, it's gonna stay in your hand well. Now, some people have been kind of asking me, you know, is there vibration through the handle? You know, does it fatigue your hand real quick? Some people have even experienced that with their SP-8. I have not experienced that because it has to do with where you chop. Now, if you connect with your piece of wood right about here, there is some vibration. It's going to fatigue your hand. If you connect with the last 3 inches of the blade right here, so that's where you're hitting all of the wood and chopping, I didn't experience any fatiguing or vibration of the hand. So that is something to note, just depending on where you chop will determine whether or not, you know, it starts to fatigue your hand. And I found that it chopped a lot better when you connect up here in about the last 3 inches, not kind of in the middle of the blade. Something to note there. Okay, so far so good, no issues. If that was the end of the conversation, I'd be giving this a 5 out of 5, but I'm gonna knock it 1 point and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 on the ergonomic rating for this reason. There is a huge gap from the guard right here to the cutting edge. In fact, it's 2.25 inches of gap there. And I don't know why they did that. Now, if this just had a normal finger choil or if the blade just came all the way up to the guard, cool, no problem. But it's very awkward and you cannot just, you know, put one finger over there. It gets really weird and it's just unbalanced and does not work very well. You have to basically put 2 fingers in front of that guard and then 2 fingers behind and then choke up, and you can do finer tasks. Now, you can do finer tasks rather well this way, but it's just weird and we lose a lot of blade length because of how long they made this portion of the handle and into the blade. And so I don't understand why they did that. You know, take it with a grain of salt. You are able to absolutely get those finer shavings done, and actually well and better than even the SP-51 or the SP-53. This just has a finer edge on it. I'm able to do finer cutting tasks with this. And when I grip it like that, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, it's actually pretty well balanced in my hand, and I can manage this very large blade rather well for those finer tasks. But it's just weird, awkward, and I would have liked to just have this cutting edge come back, give us a normal finger choil, there we go, and call it good. But they didn't do that, so that's why I'm dinging it 1 point with the 4 out of 5 on the ergonomic rating. One feature that a lot of people are curious about is the saw back here on the blade. And this is gonna be about a 5-inch saw back. And what it's designed for is not sawing the wood to actually like delimb something. Obviously chopping is gonna be way easier, way quicker. This is for notching so that you can very quickly make a notch on a piece of wood and not try and have to do really fine detailed notching tasks with this big cumbersome, you know, heavy, thick blade. You can just whip it around, turn it upside down, do a sawing motion, and then you're able to get about a 1/4 inch thick notch that you can then run your snare wire, your paracord, or things like that if you're building it for either, you know, a snare, booby trap, or just for a tent peg. Either way, that's what this saw is designed for, and it does well. It's able to do that without too much difficulty and makes the finer task of making a notch very easy. All right, folks, let's talk performance here on the SP-8. How is this sucker performing? What's it good at? What's it not good at? So as you can kind of see here, this has definitely a little bit of a kind of a almost parang design. And it's called a survival machete. From my experience, and I've tried to do some lighter chopping machete work, it doesn't really get the job done for a machete. I have a lot other machetes, you know, like the Hungalis from Essie, an RTAC 2, or Ontario's actual machetes, you know, that they have, just would do a better job. It's because of how heavy this is. It wears out your arm pretty quick, and how the grind is designed, where it's really short saber grind and it's a 1/4 inch thick. It just doesn't slice through greenery like it should, like a thinner, lighter weight blade would. So I really wouldn't purchase this if I lived like in dense jungle and I had lots and lots of clearing to do of really thin, light green material. It just doesn't really excel in that. And every other aspect, dang, this thing is awesome. So the first thing is, again, that short saber grind is a lot different than a lot of other knives out there. You know, it's less than half of the grind of or the width of the blade is this grind here. And what causes, and what that does is strengthen the blade. So the blade is a lot thicker, a lot faster, which means it's gonna be a lot tougher and durable for batoning and prying, which is a big plus. And this thing is almost like a wedge getting slammed into wood. You hit it 1 or 2 times and it literally just flings the wood apart when you're batoning, guys. This is an amazing batoner, and batons just fantastically well and would do a fantastic job for you in that. And with that 7.75 inch cutting edge, you're able to span a lot of logs and a lot of wood and really crack that wood open, particularly, you know, in like wet environments or snowy winter environments. You can split that wood open, let it dry out real quick, and get that ready for the fire. So that's a great positive with that wide grind angle. Gives you strength and amazing batoning capability. Now the prying end here, you know, again, it's nice and flat with that real quick roundup, very easy to sharpen. I didn't have any issues resharpening this and getting it to actually for how big and thick and short and wide the short wide angle is on it. I can get this actually rather sharp. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But this, you know, kind of pry bar end, if you will, is fantastic for the prying aspect or digging. You can do a lot of digging that you couldn't do or want to do with other knives. You can do with this and prying. You know, sticking this in the door jambs. I was actually talking with some photos on Facebook. Facebook is a great way to communicate with me, ask me questions. But I posted a photo of this. I had a couple other people who had owned this, who own an SP-8 as well. I mean, one of them said that, you know, you like opened an elevator door and kept it open. He was like an elevator operator or, you know, repairman. He used this to hold a door open once and pry it open. I mean, so it just, particularly for the urban environments, I think that this front end here is fantastic. That just I keep saying swedge, but edge and just, you know, prying capability is fantastic for that front portion. It's pretty dull on mine and I wanted to keep it that way. If you did want to make it nice and sharp, you could. This is definitely not a stabber though, and it's definitely a chopper and a pryer. So as I just spoke a moment ago, you know, chopping this thing, because of its weight, and it's definitely front end heavy, I mean, this thing just wants to go, whoa, whoa, and just chop. I mean, it wants to chop. And just like a baseball bat, there's a sweet spot and there's not. For chopping, the part that's not sweet is from about here backwards. It's actually going to send a lot of vibrations and not be very comfortable in your hand when you're chopping. But if you do about the last 3 inches of the blade right there and connect with your wood that you're going to be chopping right there, man, it's like a baseball bat, nice, sweet. You hear that little pop. And I mean, that's what I'm describing in my mind. You don't hear a pop with the chopping, but you just get really deep chops that are really going to remove a lot of wood's material out of the tree or branch that you're chopping on, and it's not going to, you know, fatigue your hand or wear your hand out and send vibrations down the blade. So make sure if you're chopping, use about the last 3 inches of the knife, but it chops phenomenally well on that harder wood. So finally, the feather stick making, I was actually shocked. You know, my brother has my old SP-51. I gave that to him as his big main chopper, and this definitely can do the finer work better than an SP-51. There's something about the 1095 that Ontario uses that's a little easier to get fine edges on. Their 5160, though extremely tough, is a little more difficult to get the fine edge on. So I was able to easily, with some very simple 5-10 minutes, you know, resharpening, get a finer edge than what came out of the box with this. And I was actually able to do a lot of feather sticks and finer shaving tasks. Now again, it's still a big, large 1/4 inch blade, but you can get the job done with this knife. So overall, guys, phenomenal for performance in my mind for everything that this machete can do, survival machete can do. Wow. And really shouldn't be called a machete. It should be called like a survival chopper or something, because that's the only area where I did not see it excel in. It was actual machete work on light green material. Everything else though, phenomenal. Well folks, I'm not going to belabor this and give you my final likability and just wrap up this awesome review on this awesome blade. My likability is 5 out of 5, and I'm not going to rehash that. You guys have seen why. I mean, just phenomenal for the price point, for the capabilities and everything that you're getting with this SP-8. It's absolutely worth a purchase. The doable sheath, I mean, just all of the performance capabilities, guys. You can kick the crap out of this thing and you only drop 50 bucks or less on it, and you never have to worry about it being able to handle what, you know, you put it through, and it's always going to keep on ticking. So guys, I just love this thing. I would recommend it to anybody in the market for a large chopper survival tool, and you are, you know, on a pretty tight budget and you got about 50 bucks to burn. This would be one of the best items I could suggest to you to pick up and purchase, guys. So with all that being said, thank you so much for checking out the channel. As always, check us out on all the relevant social media. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video, and as always, remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. We'll see you out there.